And we are live. So welcome in to tonight's episode of the Sports Room Talk Show. And I am Unger to the Max. A salute to you. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you punch that subscribe button like a UFC fighter and hit the like button with the Judas effect, courtesy of Chris Jericho. So tonight, from Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin, we have got a heavyweight showdown as Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and the Washington Commanders take on Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Micah Parsons, and the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. Shout out to my man Tom Grossi. But to many fans and media members alike, including myself, this game is going to decide who is the number one contender to the Philadelphia Eagles. Because you have on one side the Commanders, who came out of nowhere last season, led by a rookie at the time, Jayden Daniels, to get to the NFC Championship by beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round, and then going on the road and beating the number one seed Detroit Lions in Detroit. Then on the other side, the Green Bay Packers, who 2 years ago became the first ever number 7 seed to win on the road in Dallas against the number 2 seed Cowboys. And then they were very much in position to beat the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round in San Francisco. Of course, that didn't end up happening. San Francisco would go on to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And, well, we all know what happened there. And then last season, like I said, the Commanders made it all the way to the NFC Championship game before falling to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. But on the flip side, guess who else played the Eagles in the playoffs and lost? That would be the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round, which I find very, very interesting. And then, well, the Packers, a week before the season, they decide, you know what? We're going to go for it this season by trading for Micah freaking Parsons. And we all know the story with Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones, and he said this and he said that, and he offered me a contract extension. No, he didn't. Whatever. To me, that wasn't even the biggest story of the offseason. I know everybody talked about Micah Parsons and everything associated with it. But to me, the bigger story was in Washington with Terry McLaurin and whether he was going to re-sign with the Commanders. Because if you go back to last season, who did Jayden Daniels go to almost every time he needed to make a play? It was Terry McLaurin. And so when he requested a trade, I was like, oh shit, the Commanders are in trouble. Because without Terry McLaurin, I don't care that you have Jayden Daniels. You're not going anywhere if you're the Commanders without Terry McLaurin. And for some reason, even under this new ownership, the Commanders didn't want to give Terry McLaurin the contract I felt like he rightfully deserved. He went through everything under the old ownership with Dan Snyder, and he was part of all those hard times, losing seasons, a wide list of quarterbacks. Good God. The Commanders are like the Cleveland Browns in that regard. Although, as a Browns fan, I've had it worse because I've had like Brandon Whedon, Robert Griffin III, Colt McCoy, Jake Delhomme, Seneca Wallace, Thad Lewis, Johnny Manziel, Charlie Fry, Derek Anderson, good God, Brady Quinn, let's see, Joe Flacco, at some point it's going to be Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. You just know it will be. When that time will come, I don't know, but it will happen at some point. I can almost guarantee Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders will start for the Browns at some point this season. Because I'll tell you this. Before the season, I predicted the Browns would go 6-11. Nah. I was being generous. Honestly, at this point, the Browns might not win their first game of the season until week 7 against the Miami Dolphins or whatever team that is. I don't know. But getting back to this Commanders-Packers game tonight, because that's the main point of this video. I think it's interesting that these two teams are playing each other in week 2 on Thursday Night Football because they both just played division opponents last week in their home openers. The Commanders, of course, taking care of the New York Giants in relatively easy fashion. And then on the other side, the Green Bay Packers finally slayed their Detroit Lions demons in Lambeau because the Packers hadn't beaten the Lions in Green Bay in a couple years. I'm going to actually look this up right now because I want to make sure I'm giving you the right information. So I'm doing some schedule research on the fly here, so you'll have to forgive me for that one. But again, I want to make sure I'm giving you the right information here. 2024, Lions beat them in Green Bay. Let's see, 2023, Lions beat them in Green Bay. Let's see, 2022, Lions beat them in Green Bay. The Packers hadn't beaten the Lions in in Green Bay since 2021. Let me say that again. The Green Bay Packers had not beaten the Detroit Lions in Green Bay since 2021. So the Detroit Lions, in a way, had turned Lambeau Field into Ford Field West. But now that the Packers have Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons in tow, their defense looks ferocious because you've got Rashawn Gary on one side, you've got Micah Parsons on the other. You got Lucas Van Ness, who's also a solid player for them, and along with some other nice pieces. And Green Bay looks ferocious. But here's the thing. Jared Goff is not a mobile quarterback. And without Ben Johnson, the Lions' offense did not look right at all. Their defense did not look like it did the past couple of seasons. Aaron Glenn is now the head coach of the New York Jets, who look like they could have an offense. And Ben Johnson is now the head coach for the Chicago Bears. Oh, boy, do they have problems, especially if they fall to the Detroit Lions this week in Detroit in the Ben Johnson game. Oh, boy, what a matchup that is. But here's the thing. Who is the head coach for the Washington Commanders? That would be Dan Quinn. He is very familiar with Micah Parsons, not just because Parsons used to play in the division with the Dallas Cowboys, but also because, well, Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. So he's going to know Micah Parsons very, very well. So how does that whole storyline play into tonight's game between the Commanders and Packers? I think that's a fascinating part of this matchup. And here's the thing. I mentioned it a little while ago. Jared Goff is not a mobile quarterback. He can get out and run, but it's from what I know and from what I've seen, It's more to extend plays. You're not going to do designed quarterback runs for Jared Goff. You're like, if you force him out of the pocket, sure, he'll take off. But that's not his game. He's more of a stand in the pocket passer and try and look over the defense and throw a great pass. Jayden Daniels is not that. I shouldn't say that. He is a dual threat quarterback. He can stand in the pocket and pick you apart, or he can take off and run. I have a feeling Washington will do some designed quarterback runs and go at Micah Parsons. Because again, Dan Quinn is very familiar with Micah Parsons. Because like I just said, Parsons was in Dallas. And Dan Quinn, prior to being the Commanders head coach, he was the defensive coordinator for Dallas. So, of course, he's going to be very familiar with him. So, if I'm the Commanders, I'm going right at Micah Parsons and see how does he do playing on a short week. Here's my thing. Like I said, I know it's only week 2, but this is a number 1 contenders matchup. And for me, if I'm picking like Commanders offense or Packers defense, we've only seen one game out of the Packers defense with Micah Parsons in tow. I get it. They played amazing. Parsons had an instant impact every time he was in there. But again, this Detroit Lions offense is not the same as it was when they had Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator. Now you're taking on Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, Noah Brown. This is a step up for the Packers defense. We're going to learn a lot about them. Playing on a short week, trying to get ready for a dual threat quarterback. It's a fascinating matchup. And if you want to make the argument, no, this is not a number 1 contender match because both Washington and Green Bay are going to be in the mix later in the season, I hear you on that one. I have the Packers going 13-4, having the road to Super Bowl 60 go through Lambeau Field, and I have the Packers playing in and winning the Super Bowl over Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Granted, my Ravens pick might already be in trouble because, well, they allowed the Buffalo Bills to come back from down 15 in the final 4 minutes of regulation to win that game. So, I would say, for me at least, that seals the number 1 seed in the AFC. Because, yes, the Chargers are going to be a factor. I think the Broncos are going to be in the mix. The Ravens, obviously. And the Chiefs, although they fought 0-2, they're in deep trouble. Honestly, I'll just speak on this for a minute. If the Chiefs fall this week against the Eagles and the New York Giants decide to bench Russell Wilson and go with Jackson Dart, I'm not afraid to say this. I think there's a possibility the Chiefs could end up starting the season 0-3. Yeah. I will say this. If the New York Giants start Jackson Dart at quarterback, there is a possibility that Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, who have been to the AFC Championship like 7 or 8 straight years, something like that, there is a chance the Chiefs could start the season 0-3. And in that division, not a good place to be. Because the Raiders look like they're an improved team. The Chargers have just showed you we're not intimidated by you. I think Denver's going to be a factor. I have Denver actually winning that division and capturing the number 3 seed in the AFC. of course, behind Baltimore and Buffalo. But yeah, but getting back to this game, I mentioned it. Washington has Terry McLaurin, who, again, that was the most important story of the offseason. I understand why Micah Parsons got all the headlines and all the talking heads were having conversations about, oh, Jerry Jones said this and Micah Parsons said this, and was there a contract offered? Was there not? Oh, they didn't use the agent, all this and that. Who knows what the truth is? It's somewhere out there, but we're never going to actually know it. But, so again, I get it. It's Jerry Jones. It's Dallas. Micah Parsons. I get it. But for me, the most important story of the offseason was Terry McLaurin and whether or not he was going to get that contract extension from the Washington Commanders. Because, again, for me, Jayden Daniels is the most important player for the Commanders, but the second most important player and the most important skill position player, or let me rephrase, Jayden Daniels is the most important player overall for the Commanders, but the most important player who is not Jayden Daniels for the Commanders is Terry McLaurin. Because if Terry McLaurin is not there, we're not talking about the Commanders as a legit threat to the Philadelphia Eagles. We're not talking about the Washington Commanders as a possible Super Bowl contender. We're just not. Terry McLaurin is that important. So, yeah, you got Terry McLaurin, you got Noah Brown, you got Zach Ertz, you got their running back, which I want to make sure I'm saying his name right. So let me look it up for you. So I don't screw it up. I think it's, let me look here. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. There you go. I guess they saw enough out of him that they were willing to, trade Brian Robinson, to the San Francisco 49ers. So, and they went out and they traded for Laramie Tunsil to try and improve that offensive line because I get it. Jayden Daniels is a dual threat. You can do designed quarterback runs for him, but you don't want him running for his life and having defenders coming at him and him possibly getting hurt on one of these runs or something. So having a strong offensive line, it's basically like if you want to have a great pizza, it starts with the dough. So you can have a solid crust. I know that's a weird analogy, but hopefully it makes sense. Or if you want to look at it another way, it's like if you don't have a solid foundation, your house is going to fall apart. It's the same thing. If you don't have a solid offensive line, your quarterback is going to get absolutely destroyed, lit up like a freaking Christmas tree. That's just the way it is. But here's the thing. Again, you got Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons coming at you. So if you double team Micah Parsons, guess what? Rashawn Gary gets single coverage. If you double team Rashawn Gary, well, guess who's on the other side waiting for you? That would be Micah Parsons. So it's very important that the Commanders' offensive line holds up tonight against that two-headed monster. When we had Zadarius Smith alongside Myles Garrett, I really liked it here in Cleveland. When we had Jadeveon Clowney here in Cleveland to go alongside Myles Garrett, I really liked it. Because, again, it's the same idea. When Myles Garrett got double-teamed, guess who got single coverage? Zadarius Smith. Guess who got single coverage? Jadeveon Clowney. And be decided stupidly to double team Zadarius Smith or Jadeveon Clowney. Guess who's getting single coverage? Yeah, that guy. Where is he? He is right here. There he is, right here. Yeah, him. Myles Garrett. I don't think you want that. So, how that's going to be one of my key matchups is Commanders' offensive line against the Packers' defensive line. And I'm also, again, I've talked about this a good amount already on this stream, but I'm going to keep emphasizing it. The matchup I'm really watching is not Jayden Daniels versus Jordan Love. Although Jordan Love now has a ton of pressure on him because the Packers drafted a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in over 20 years when they selected Matthew Golden out of the University of Texas. And a week before the season, they go, you know what? Micah Parsons, you're available? We'll trade for you. And all they had to give up was Frank Clark and a couple picks. I don't know what it is with Dallas, but they're like, oh, you're a superstar? We'll just get like 1 or 2 first-round picks for you. Luka Doncic, Micah Parsons, what can you do? But, yeah, that's the matchup I'm really watching. The Commanders' skill position group against the Packers' skill position group. I know they're not going to be on the field at the same time, but for me, that's the key matchup. Whose skill position group can make more plays for their quarterback? Because you can't expect, well, I shouldn't say that. Jayden Daniels had to put the Commanders on his back to get them to the NFC Championship. I get it. But you can't expect him to do that again this season. For me, that's just not realistic. And if he proves me wrong, more power to him. Congrats. But for me, I just can't really expect that. And then on the other side, Jordan Love, I've been on his bandwagon since he beat the Cowboys and played really well, at least for most of the game, in the divisional round against the San Francisco 49ers. When the Packers gave him that contract extension, I was very much in favor of it. Now, on the flip side, I was not in favor of it when the Miami Dolphins gave Tua Tagovailoa the contract extension that they gave him. And, well, that seems to be playing out, well, not so good for the Dolphins. But you've got Christian Watson. You've got Romeo Doubs. You've got Tucker Kraft. You've got Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has played really well since coming to the Packers. He's helped me a bunch in fantasy, but I think he's made a huge difference for Jordan Love. And I think he's actually going to be the X factor in this game for the Packers against the Commanders. But here's my thing, because I mentioned this in the title. I think the Packers have an advantage over the Cleveland Browns, but it's not the advantage you're thinking of. Well, one, they have the advantage in terms of quarterback. I will take Jordan Love over Joe Flacco any day. Micah Parsons versus Myles Garrett, for me, that's a bit of a wash. But when you add Rashawn Gary to the mix, absolutely advantage Green Bay. And when you look at skill position groups, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Matthew Golden, Josh Jacobs versus Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Quinshon Judkins, rookie, Dylan Sampson, rookie, Cedric Tillman. It's advantage Packers. None of those are the advantages I'm talking about in terms of the Packers. By the way, I'm most likely going to that Packers game next week here in Cleveland. And due to personal reasons, that might be the last game of the season that I go to. Meaning I will not go to the Week 7 game against the Miami Dolphins. I will not go to the Week 11 game against the Ravens. I will not go to the Week 13 game against the 49ers or the Week 14 game against the Titans or the Week 15 game against the Bills or the Week 16 game or Week 17 game against the Steelers. It would be Week 16 against the Bills, Week 17 against the Steelers. There we go. So we'll see how things go in terms of next week against the Packers. I have been waiting for this game for years. I've been wanting to see the Green Bay Packers here in Cleveland. And next week, I finally get the opportunity. But here's the advantage I'm talking about that I don't think anybody else is going to mention. The Green Bay Packers are playing tonight, whereas the Cleveland Browns are facing the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, the Ravens home opener, on Sunday, where they have to face Lamar Jackson. Advantage Packers. They get, since they're playing tonight in, a little less than an hour, basically. They then get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all of next week to zero in on what they need to do to face us here in Cleveland next week. By the way, that will be the Packers' first road game of the season. And I'm wondering if Green Bay will be looking ahead to week 4's matchup when they play at Dallas on Sunday Night Football. Because, that's Micah Parsons' return to Dallas. So maybe the Browns could have a little bit of an advantage there. But overall, I'm saying advantage to the Green Bay Packers because they play tonight. So then they get Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all of next week to prepare for the Cleveland Browns. Whereas we play in Baltimore on Sunday, and then we have to come home and get ready for the Packers. We're having to start the season by playing Joe Burrow, although he did not play well against us. We held Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to 5 receptions, and we still lost. I believe if Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders had started that game, we would have won. I know the 2 interceptions by Joe Flacco were not his fault, and sure, Andre Schmidt had a lot to do with it. How the hell do you miss an extra point and a 36-yard field goal? Like, your job is to kick the football between the 2 giant field goal posts. That is what you are paid to do. And you couldn't do it. We lost by 1. And he left 4 points on the board. 4. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. We would have won 20-17. And we would have extended the Bengals' week 1 losing streak. Because they haven't won a week 1 regular season game since 2021 when they beat the Minnesota Vikings in overtime, which that was the same season where they went all the way to the Super Bowl, where they lost to the LA Rams, who won that Super Bowl in their home stadium, which they also share with the LA Chargers. The Rams became the second straight team to not only play in their home stadium, but also win the Super Bowl in their home stadium, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did that in Super Bowl 55 when they absolutely destroyed the Kansas City Chiefs. And Green Bay is never going to host a Super Bowl. I can't see Lambeau Field hosting a Super Bowl. But you know what? It's Lambeau Field. They don't need to host a Super Bowl. Jeez. I mean, hell, they've gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now it looks like they have another great starting quarterback in Jordan Love. But, again, with all the moves the Packers have made, Jordan Love has got to step up. He has got to show that, yes, I can be the starting quarterback. Or, I'm sorry, yes, I can be the franchise quarterback for this team. Yes, I can lead this team to a Super Bowl. Because, again, you got all the weapons. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Josh Jacobs. Defensively, you got Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons. All the pieces are in place. It's just, can Jordan Love take that next step? We're going to, again, to circle back to tonight's game, which now kicks off in, I don't know, like an hour 15 or so. We're going to learn a lot about both the Commanders and the Packers because, like I said at the beginning of this stream, both teams are coming off of winning division games at home. The Commanders, of course, obliterated the New York Giants, and the Packers slaughtered their Detroit Lion Demons. Because, again, they had not beaten the Lions in Detroit, they had not beaten the Lions in Green Bay since 2021. What? That doesn't make sense. But here's my thing. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. For me, this matchup, while the quarterbacks are heavily going to impact this game and the line of scrimmage is going to heavily impact this game, it is the skill position groups that I am most closely watching. Whose group of wide receivers and running backs will step up and help their quarterbacks the best? Is it going to be Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and the Commanders? Or is it going to be Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, and the Packers group? Who is it? Who is it going to be? And again, just to reiterate, my advantage for the Packers that nobody is talking about going into week 3 against the Cleveland Browns. The Packers are playing tonight. So that means they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all of next week to prepare for the Browns. Whereas we are strictly focusing on Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens right now, which I'm fully expecting the Browns to get absolutely smoked by the Ravens on Sunday. Baltimore is favored by 12.5. In my opinion, I think the Ravens will cover that. I think they are going to play with their hair on fire. They are going to be playing angry. They are going to want to make a statement. However, if you remember last season, they lost in the season opening game against the Kansas City Chiefs because Isaiah Likely's toe was on the line. And then what happened? They came home, played the Las Vegas Raiders in their home opener, and lost. Could that happen again? Maybe. It's the AFC North. For God's sakes, back in week 10 in 2023, the Ravens were up 24-9 against us. And yet we came all the way back and won when number 4 was our starting quarterback. I'm not even saying his name. I would feel better if Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel, for me personally, I would prefer Dylan Gabriel, but nonetheless, we're our starting quarterback. But instead, it is Joe Flacco. This will be Flacco's first time playing the Ravens in Baltimore since he left there in 2018. Of course, Flacco was the Ravens starting quarterback from 2008 all the way to 2018. In that time, he went to back-to-back AFC championships in 2011 and 2012. And of course, under Flacco as their starting quarterback, the Ravens won the Super Bowl against Jim Harbaugh and the San Francisco 49ers in the blackout game, or the Harbaugh Bowl, in Super Bowl 47 in 2012. So the emotion is going to be very high in this game on Sunday in Baltimore. And on top of all that, just to throw a little bit of disrespect and to throw some more fuel to the fire, the Baltimore Ravens are celebrating their 30th anniversary when they host us on Sunday. How did the Ravens come to be? Oh, yeah, that's right. Back in 1995, Browns owner Art Modell decided, you know what? I'm moving this team to Baltimore. But he left the name Browns, the colors brown and orange, and all the team history back in Cleveland. So the Ravens were basically an existing franchise that was hitting the reset button. So, the Ravens are going, let's do our 30th anniversary celebration against the team they're basically celebrating their anniversary by playing their old selves, if all that gibberish kind of makes sense. But think about this. The Browns have to go from playing Lamar Jackson to Jordan Love, whereas the Packers have to go from playing Jayden Daniels, who is a dual threat quarterback, can go all around the field like this, or he can go that way, or he can go that way, whatever, to Joe Flacco, who is not a mobile quarterback by any stretch. Let's see. He said he could not take all the dogs with him. There are a lot of strays in the streets. No Ravens in Cleveland to take. Yeah, that's a good point, Grandizer. But, it just adds more fuel to the fire for me. I already hated the Baltimore Ravens as is, and now I hate them even more. Let's see. So let me address this. I will not be doing a play-by-play live stream tonight. I am giving serious consideration to starting to do some play-by-play live streams. I don't know if I'll be available to do it this Sunday for Browns Ravens. And like I said, I am most likely going to be at Packers versus Browns next week here in Cleveland. So I would not be live streaming at the game, though I have seen some other content makers who do that. I personally don't want to. But maybe there will be some other games that I will do it for. I'll look into maybe doing it for this Monday night. When the Buccaneers play the Texans. That might be a good one to start with. I'm definitely going to do some live play-by-play. I just don't know when my first game will be. So I don't want to give you a definitive time on that. But again, the Packers have a ton of advantages. For example, like I said, they win in terms of defense because we have Myles Garrett, but they have Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary. Their skill position group is better. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Josh Jacobs, Matthew Golden. I'll take that over Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Quinshon Judkins, and Dylan Sampson. I'll take Jordan Love over Joe Flacco. You know how I feel about Joe Flacco. I will never root for him unless he does the following three things. Number one, beats the Baltimore Ravens. So he has his first opportunity to checkmark that box this week. Number two, he has to get the Cleveland Browns into the playoffs. And number three, he has to win that playoff game. If he does all three of those, that's when I'll start to root for Joe Flacco. If he only beats the Baltimore Ravens, no deal. If he beats the Baltimore Ravens and gets the Browns into the playoffs, no deal. He has to beat the Ravens at least once, get the Browns into the playoffs, and win that playoff game. That's the only chance he has of me becoming a fan of his. Because I don't just forgive and forget his time with the Baltimore Ravens. Because when he was wearing the purple and black and with that Raven on his helmet, he constantly beat us. Oh, and on top of that, when he was the starting quarterback of the New York Jets, he beat us in our home opener. Sorry, I don't just forgive and forget. So, again, the advantage I give to the Packers that nobody is talking about, and I will continue to highlight and drill this point home because I think it really needs to be said. The Packers have tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and all of next week to focus squarely on us. We are still having to prepare for Lamar Jackson this week, and then we only have next week. It's like back in 2019. We played the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco on Monday Night Football, and then we had to come home the following Sunday and play the Seattle Seahawks. You know, that's a tough ask. I know it's just how the schedule works. I get it. There's a million ways the 2025 NFL schedule could have worked out. I understand that. Trust me, I really do. But the facts are the facts. The Packers are playing the Commanders tonight in what I believe is a number one contenders match. The winner of this game will be the number one contender to the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of the NFC crown. Although I predicted the Packers to take that crown from the Philadelphia Eagles and win the Super Bowl over Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. We will see if that actually pans out. But, you know, again, both teams are playing on a short week. They're coming off of playing division opponents. We expect both of these teams to be in the mix for the playoffs down the stretch. And honestly, this game could decide who ends up with home field advantage, you know, in the playoffs. Because you got a lot of teams in the NFC who could be in the mix. I think Seattle's going to be in the mix. I know some people aren't as high on the Seahawks. They really should have beaten the 49ers in that game in Seattle on Sunday. But they didn't. But Seattle's going to be in the mix. Arizona, maybe. You got the Rams. Tampa Bay is already making me eat my words because I predicted that the Atlanta Falcons would win that division. And Baker Mayfield said, yeah, you can take that take and shove it directly up your ass. Because, well, he has a new favorite weapon in Micah Buka. So the Buccaneers are going to be a factor. You got, obviously, the Packers. Maybe Minnesota is going to step up. If Detroit and Chicago play like that the rest of the season, no, they're not going to be in the mix. And then, who knows? If the Giants start Daniel Jones, I think they could be in the mix. I really do. So, this game is critical for both teams. And I think it's critical in shaping up what the NFC playoff picture looks like. Although the biggest game of the season is going to be Week 10, Monday Night Football in Green Bay, Philadelphia Eagles at Green Bay Packers. Whoever wins that game will be the number 1 seed in the NFC. I fully believe that. But again, I think this game, it holds just as much importance. I really and truly do believe that. And I've said it once. I'll say it again. I've said it multiple times throughout this live stream, and I will continue to say it. The matchup that will decide this game is not Jayden Daniels against Jordan Love. It is not the Commanders' offensive line against the Packers' defensive line. It is the Commanders' skill position group against the Packers' skill position group. And in that matchup, I would give the Packers the slight edge because I feel like, yeah, we saw one season out of Jayden Daniels, but can he continue to stay on the same page with his skill guys? Not just Terry McLaurin, but Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, excuse me. Whereas, like, I've seen what Jordan Love can do with Josh Jacobs, with Christian Watson, with Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. And now you're adding Matthew Golden into the mix. As of right now, I would trust the Packers skill position group over the Commanders skill position group. So right now, I have the Packers winning this game. I think it's going to be somewhat high scoring. I would probably say Green Bay. Oh, why is it so dark over there? It's because I have my blinds closed. Because if I open them, it'll mess up the lighting. Here, I'll go turn on the lights. 1 sec. There we go. I probably should have done that in the beginning. But, well, I didn't. Sorry. But, again, I'll say it once and I'll say it again. I trust the Packers skill position group over the Commanders skill position group, and I think that's what makes the difference. I'm going to say the Packers win this game like 24-21. If your Browns beat the Finns, will you wear? I don't have a dog collar, so probably not. We'll see. But it's crazy how the schedule worked out. Because again, I said it once and I'll say it again. The Packers have the schedule advantage. I'm going to keep drilling this point home because I think it is very important and relevant. The Packers are playing the Commanders tonight. That means they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then all next week to get ready for the Browns, which honestly probably won't be that hard because, other than Myles Garrett, we don't really have anybody. Like, there's nobody on the Browns offense that you're like, oh my God, if we stop, we have to worry about him. I guess you could argue that it's Jerry Jeudy, but I wouldn't say he's the type of wide receiver that really and truly scares you. I wouldn't. Even when we had Amari Cooper, I did not feel like we had a number one wide receiver. I don't know the last time we had a number one wide receiver. Green Bay does. You can make an argument for any of them being the number one wide receiver. I would probably lean towards Christian Watson being the number one wide receiver for them. That's my perspective. I'd love to talk with a Packers fan and see if they agree with me about that. It's been a while since the Browns have beaten the Packers. Actually, I want to look this up. So, and I might even share the screen with you. Let's see. Browns all-time record. No, I don't like that. Let's see. Okay. Actually, I will share the screen with you here. So give me a second. So, the last time we played the Packers in Green Bay, that was on Christmas. We lost because, well, Baker Mayfield kept giving the Packers defense Christmas presents. And then the last time they came to Cleveland, they beat us in overtime in 2017. That, of course, was the season where we went winless. Prior to that, they beat us handily 31-13 in 2013. And when they played us here in Cleveland back in 2009, they destroyed us 31-9 or 31-3. We have not beaten the Packers since 2006. Look at this. No, better yet, we have not beaten the Packers since 2005 in Green Bay. Since 2005. What is this ad? Get that ad out of here. Yeah, we haven't beaten the Packers since 2005. The last time we beat them in Cleveland was 1992. Good God. No wonder Green Bay leads the series 14-7. So, I'm very excited for this game tonight between the Commanders and Packers, as I've illustrated. Let's see. That is, Josh, that is like the Rams stat. They have not beaten the Packers in Green Bay. Was like the mid-2000s. Yeah. Green Bay's a hard place to play. Although we would have beaten them on Christmas the last time we played them if Baker Mayfield hadn't kept giving the Packers defense so many freaking Christmas presents. I don't know. I don't know. Yes, I've had my issues with Baker Mayfield while he was here in Cleveland. I didn't like that he was in so many commercials and he was having more commercials than touchdowns. But my biggest problem with Baker was the fact that he tried to be too much of a Cleveland tough guy. And what I mean by that is this. Cleveland has always been a blue-collar, working man's type of town. And when he suffered that shoulder injury in 2021 against the Houston Texans in week 2, he should have shut it down for the rest of the season, gotten the surgery, and come back and seen what we had in 2022. But he decided not to do that. He tried to play through it. And for me, that's what ruined his Cleveland career. And of course, now he's playing fantastically well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But, so I'm happy for Baker. I was a fan of his. Did I have my issues with him? Yes. But it happens. But again, in terms of this game, I am definitely going to watch it. It's crazy that we're actually getting a good Thursday night football game. It's not going to be like Seahawks-Bears, rather, where the final score was like 6-3 or 9-6, something like that. Something embarrassing. No, I think I got the Packers winning this game 27-24. I think Jordan Love makes a few big plays down the stretch that allows the Packers to win this game. But again, for me, the big matchup that I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about, and that's why I keep bringing it up. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's because I feel like I have to drill this home. For me, the matchup that is going to decide this game is the Packers skill position group against the Commanders skill position group. Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, Jakrowski, however you say it. It is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. There we go. Going against Josh Jacobs, Matthew Golden, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Matthew Golden. That is the matchup that will decide this game. If the Packers skill position group outplays the Commanders skill position group, Green Bay is going to win this game. Vice versa. If Washington's skill position group outplays Green Bay's skill position group, they are going to win. For me, if Jordan Love has 356 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, that's great. But what were Romeo Doubs' stats? What were Christian Watson's stats? You know, if Jayden Daniels runs for 145 yards and throws for 256 and he has 2 touchdowns passing and 1 running, that's great. But what were Terry McLaurin's stats? What were Noah Brown's stats? That's what I'm watching. For me, skill position groups have always been more important than the quarterback because, at least from my perspective, and feel free to disagree with me if you'd like, for me, oftentimes it is the wide receivers or the skill position group overall that makes the quarterback. And in some cases, yes, it's the quarterback that makes the wide receiver. I get it. But for me, more often than not, it is the wide receiver that makes the quarterback. Now, in the case of Lamar Jackson, that's obviously not true. Lamar Jackson is just that great. With Josh Allen, he's another exception. Josh Allen is just that great. Peyton Manning, well, you could make an argument either way with Peyton Manning. I feel like Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne definitely had a big impact in turning Peyton Manning into what he became. And when he went to Denver, he had Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace, amongst others. Julius Thomas, big weapons, big-time weapons that certainly helped him. I'm not trying to take any credit away from Peyton Manning. He rightfully belongs in the Hall of Fame. He is rightfully one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. I am simply saying that in certain situations, more often than not, at least in my opinion, it is, for me, the wide receiver that makes the quarterback, not the other way around. That's why when I constantly see Patrick Mahomes wins MVP, Josh Allen wins MVP, oh, Super Bowl MVP, guess what? It was Matt Stafford for the Rams. Or no, it was Cooper Kupp, rather, for the Rams. But Patrick Mahomes has won it. Jalen Hurts won it for the Eagles last year. I voted for DeVonta Smith with Super Bowl 59 last year. But you get my point. If the Ravens ever win the Super Bowl, it's most likely going to be Jordan Love. Or, why did I just say Jordan Love? I meant if the Ravens ever win the Super Bowl, it will be Lamar Jackson who wins Super Bowl MVP. If the Bills ever win the Super Bowl, it will be Josh Allen who wins Super Bowl MVP. If the Packers win the Super Bowl, it would most likely be Jordan Love who wins the Super Bowl MVP, though I would vote for Josh Jacobs or I would vote for Micah Parsons. I'm just saying. But by the way, and again, I've said this, I have the Packers winning the Super Bowl this season by beating the Baltimore Ravens. And as of right now, I would actually have Josh Jacobs winning Super Bowl MVP because I think he is that valuable to the Packers. But we've been going for over an hour now, and I appreciate those of you who have tuned in and watched. I love expressing my opinion on this type of stuff. It's part of the reason why I became a content creator. Shout out to the 4 guys who really inspired me. Gangrene David, big-time New York Jets fan. I did a couple video collaborations with him. He has since deleted his channel. Ingraven Vids, huge Baltimore Ravens fan. He and I have had some great video collaborations over the years. Norbcam, huge Seattle Seahawks fan. Did a collab with him in 2019. And then in 2023, I actually went up to Seattle for the Browns-Seahawks game at Lumen Field and did a pregame video with him. And then the 4th guy is Tom Grossi, huge Green Bay Packers fan. Unfortunately, when he came to Cleveland for 30 and 30 a couple years ago, I was not able to go because I was out of town in Boston. But I believe he is doing 30 and 30 again next season. So if that's the case, I will hopefully be able to go. It would be amazing to meet him someday. And somehow, some way, if the stars align, I would love to do some type of video collaboration with him. Don't know if it's going to happen ever, but we shall see. But you can expect more Cleveland Browns content on this channel. I'm going to try and do as many video collaborations as I can this season. Last season, we finally accomplished the goal of doing a video collaboration for every game on the Browns schedule. And that was truly amazing. I'd love to do it again. We'll see if that happens or not. I have not yet connected with a Ravens fan for this Sunday's game, so I'm going to continue to try and make that happen, but no promises. But again, in terms of this game, I can't stress it enough. For me, the Packers have an advantage that nobody is talking about going into next week's game against the Browns. And that is the fact that the Packers are playing tonight, and they have all Friday and Saturday and Sunday, in other words, the rest of this week, and all of next week to prepare for us. Whereas we just have next week because we have to get ready for Lamar Jackson. And in terms of this game, like I said, if I'm the Washington Commanders, I'm doing run plays right at oh, wow. My guy Darwin is a Ravens content creator. He is a good guy. Okay. Oh, yeah. Payo time. Yes, he also inspired me. He's a big-time Rams content creator. I did a collab with him back in 2023 prior to the Browns-Rams game. That was Joe Flacco's first start with us. So, yeah. Shout out to Payo time as well. But, yeah, if I'm the Commanders, I'm going right at Micah Parsons because this is a short week. You're coming off of playing the Detroit Lions. I get it. The Lions probably aren't going to be what we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. I love that clip. But, you know, I think that was from the Arizona Cardinals head coach back in 2006 following a loss to the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah. Let's see. Derwin's Raven. That is his YouTube channel. Great guy. Solid guy. Okay, I'll reach out to him and see if I can connect with him. But again, no promises. But enjoy Commanders Packers tonight. It should be an excellent game. I can't believe we're actually getting a really good Thursday night football matchup. If it's worse than Seahawks Bears, we got issues. And it looks like my screen is. Bye-bye.